in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Vibrations podcast. This week, we are going to talk about Stephen Greer, the grandfather of the UFOs. Steve, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm just great.
Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking about for the Stephen Greer stuff. So basically tonight, let's walk through his history. I'm going to do that here real quick, and we can talk along the way about these things. But because of the depth of Dr. Greer's work, we will only. I mean, I was trying to think like I actually tried planning this a couple different ways. Can we talk about this thing or this thing or this thing? I think it's more important to get an episode out that just kind of like talks about all of his work and what he's done and the different things along the way, because we're going to be talking about almost all of these things. Even probably to Holly and my surprise, we'll be talking about a topic one week and we'll find out that oddly enough, Stephen Greer will come up in it.
Sure. If it has anything to do with UFOs or aliens, his name's going to be in there somewhere.
Right. So, I mean, again, I was trying to what I was trying to do, though, was like, let's do a quick recap or like what what Stephen Greer is all about, how he came to be and all that. And then let's try and talk about one or two. But I don't think that's right, because even one or two of them that I was looking at can get very, I mean, it would be its own episode.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think tonight is just like, who is Stephen Greer? So if you guys are familiar, still worth listening. And please, even though before we get to where I say thank you for joining us, good night, remember that is not good night. Stick around if you want to get into some, if you want to join in the chat a little bit. But yeah, we'll get through what we can about Mr. Greer here tonight. But there's, like Holly was saying, he's the grandfather. I mean, I wasn't going to refer to him as that. I don't even know if I've ever seen that written, but I'm sure.
No, I made it up.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, basically there's just, like she was saying, there's just way too much there. I mean, like, I'll be mentioning this, but so I don't want to get into it yet. But I mean, there's one thing that he did last year. Holly knows immediately what I'm talking about. And that one thing might be 2 episodes on its own. That one.
Yeah. Well, and there was some big news a couple of weeks ago. I assume you probably know, but we'll get into that too. So you go do your thing and
so yeah, let's do this. So I want to tell you guys. So let's literally walk through. So Stephen Macon Greer was a poor fellow who was born in June 28th. I'm just kidding. He was born in 1955. He is known most commonly as a ufologist. However, he also was a doctor. He's been many things. He is a retired physician. He was one of the founders of, it says the founder, but I think there were others in SETI too, because I don't know if you remember, Holly, but I used to have a SETI screensaver. Did you ever know about that?
No.
Where like, it was like one of the first things, it was almost like crowdsourcing before crowdsourcing was even not a thing, but before it was even possible. Because what it was SETI it had a great screensaver that was showing these multi-dimension things, and it was out of the University of Berkeley, right? And it's the study of extraterrestrial intelligence. And it was funded from the out of Berkeley. And what it did was it used your computer's power to power the SETI radio scope that they were sending up there. So it was the first time ever that other people's computers' screensavers were powering this. And you could set the amount like full power or only 10% of my power on my computer or whatever. But so it was very encouraged to do it. I knew a handful of people who did it. It was a long time ago. But, he was his first, when he was 18 years old, that was his first encounter with somebody or with an extraterrestrial. And he has had, a few. and he has had them both kind of what I would call in nature and also encounters within labs almost, let's say it that way. So it's very odd because he's been a part of from the grassroots of the people who see them to be able to go all the way down the depth too. But um he was, I don't know if you saw this, he was originally a transcendental meditation teacher, and he served as the director of a meditation organization. I didn't even know that part.
Was
Um,
that before he was an emergency room doctor?
yeah, I'm getting
Okay.
there. So
Okay.
he received his Bachelor of Science in biology from Appalachian State in 1982, and an MD degree from Tennessee State University in 1987. He received his Virginia medical license in 1989, worked as an emergency room physician, and in 1998 retired as a physician in favor of becoming strictly and only about UFOs. And so, I mean, I guess his whole career was what, 9 years as a doctor.
Right. Well, and he was working as a doctor. I mean, I'm sure you're going to go into this, and so I'm not going to deep into this, but how he got into the UFOs from the emergency room, I think, is an interesting,
Well,
topic too.
you go ahead and take us through that one.
Well, I would have to actually look back at my notes. I got to find them, but I remember that he was talking about being an emergency room doctor and the government coming to him, but I can't remember why. That's why I was hoping that you had that. Because he had all of this information, and basically he's like, whoa, I'm this young ER doctor. Why are you hounding me to come and talk to the president of the United States about this stuff? You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like he was in shock to be sought after so hard, I guess, from the government because he did have so much information.
Right. So moving into his UFO career, though, so we said that 1998 he retired as a physician, but it was in 1990 when he created the Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, SETI, as it was known, or as it is known. I guess it's still around. I don't know how much research they actually do because I know Dr. Greer has moved most of his research off that site, and so I don't know how much they still invest in it from the Berkeley College. My guess is not nearly as much because if you lose the main guy in the world at this, and he's going to go start his own, like, what's the point? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I honestly, because of my also, I would also happen to believe that again, some of this just isn't disclosed, and you have to just guess. But I would, I would feel safe in saying he left for many reasons. Usually, if a university is running you, and I would feel very comfortable also saying I don't think it would have been over pay. I don't think he was like, I'm not getting paid enough. That doesn't seem like him.
No,
So him leaving that project and starting CE5, that had to be because he knew he could do things that they weren't allowing him to do. It did have major ties to the university, and I can see why maybe some of the, I mean, especially now, if when we get to the now of him, those of you who are not familiar with him, you'll understand because he is doing things that no university would want to probably be associated with. Um, or if there is a university, I don't know it. Like, not a big one like Berkeley, California is not going to want to be invested in that.
well, I would think that anyone who tried to tell him he couldn't do anything would have a huge problem. He doesn't seem like the kind
Well,
of
I
guy
mean,
who's going to listen to anybody say no.
I just remember when I had the SETI screensaver, you had to go to the SETI site and update it all the time. And they always tried to give you little tidbits of information. And he was young at that time. And I remember that was my first hearing of him. I didn't even really put his name to everything at that point, but I remember him being there, and they would always try and like give you little tidbits, but it definitely was not a full disclosure project. So he started CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Which is a human initiated contact and communication with extraterrestrial life. SETI claims to have over 3,000 confirmed reports of UFO sightings by pilots and over 4,000 of what they described as landing traces. Um, so Utilizing rapid mobile mobilization, investigative. I don't have my good glasses on, guys, and I got my notes, on an iPad, and I can't get any bigger. Um, investigative teams with the aim of arriving at landing sites as quickly as possible. SETI has defined a protocol for human-initiated contact to UFOs using consciousness. So, and actually, I ran across some stuff where that part I at least wanted to say we'll probably go back down a rabbit hole we already did that you brought up. The what do you call it? The remote viewing,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
he knew all those people too. I
Yes.
mean, he was involved and he understood the project. And I actually did hear some things because we were like, well, hey, can we still go do this? And I think you found in that episode you found that we couldn't. We were looking up some things, but he was saying not just anybody could anyway. So I don't know why they were allowing some of those sessions where you could pay and go, because it sounded to me like that was not an option to be able to learn that stuff. Like unless they pulled you aside, kind of thing.
Well, to work for the government is one thing, but to know
Right.
how to do it is
Mm.
it's basically just teaching someone to be
You're talking
clairvoyant.
okay, you're talking about so you were talking about like a privatized one.
No, I'm talking. Well, I mean, you just
I
go
mean,
and you
when
learn.
they were teaching people, I mean.
Right, when they're teaching people, yes, they do that at the Monroe Institute. You can sign up to do that still. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, they're not teaching you
I guess
using go to
yeah.
the government's, blah blah blah. They're, hey, go look at this bridge in Paris, or something. I don't know what they're teaching them, but they're just teaching them basically how to meditate and to do that and bring up that consciousness, I guess.
Mhm.
But I think we should sign up and do that. And I
Well,
would
I guess
love to go to
I
his
guess
conference
my
in July.
point, yeah, I was going to say I'd rather do something like his conference in July, cuz my thoughts from things I heard was he was almost he was almost saying like almost like, hey, listen, this is the only, he was saying that the government is the only game in town to know about this stuff. Like, I think he was basically even not endorsing anybody else doing this. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I would have to look more into that, but it sounded to me like he was almost like, hey, anybody else out there doing this crap doesn't know what they're doing. But we would have to look. I don't know. It didn't sound like it was something he got too far into. Too, he just gets his hand into everything. But
Right.
he did in '93. He founded the Disclosure Project, the goal of which is to publicly disclose the government's alleged knowledge of UFOs, extraterrestrial intelligence, and advanced energy and propulsion systems. So that goes back to last week with
Hmm.
or 2 weeks ago with Bob Lazar. The propulsions. They this is if you were in propulsion technology in the late '80s, early '90s, I would think that that kind of micro number of people, that almost 90 to 100% of them were approached, because it's not like business management. It's not like there's millions in it. It's
Right.
there's like a very few, and at that time they were trying to grab everybody. Um, but so yeah, so he was doing that. Uh, uh, Greer describes the disclosure project as an effort to grant amnesty to government whistleblowers willing to violate their security oaths by sharing classified information about UFOs.
I have some current news on that too. I don't know if you have or not, but we go ahead and
Yeah,
get through this and I'll
about the disclosure,
about what's happening. The
the
change
website.
on June, that too. That's actually, I'm on it right now on the other phone. But no, the June 20th and the protections for the high level whistleblowers.
Okay, well, we'll get there.
Okay.
Um, I really want to make sure that, because we probably will never come back to this stuff. This is just his early years. Um, let's see. In May 2001, Greer held a press conference at the National Press Club, which is, we'll get to another one about last year too, in Washington D.C. This was 2001, that featured 20 retired Air Force, Federal Aviation Administration, and intelligence officers who also were cooperating at that time. I did not know about that. I did not know that 22 years prior to last year's that he kind of did the same thing. But at that time, there was a much lower level of belief. And if you remember this, Holly, you'll remember we were just talking about this. Like we were saying how we believe, we were saying, let's be nice. 50, more than 50% of people believe in this now, or
Mhm.
believe that it's real. He actually said, I was watching something with Stephen Greer that said he said over 60% of the world believes in UFOs or aliens now. He said that's easy.
Right.
So I found that interesting because we were saying I felt like it'd be more, but we were just being safe and saying over 50. But now he's saying like well over 60. I don't know what that means. Could mean 65, 66, 70. I don't know. You know, But in 2013, Greer co-produced Sirius, a documentary detailing his work and hypothesis regarding extraterrestrial life, government cover-ups, and close encounters of the fifth kind. Um, he's written books, Hidden Truth, Forbidden Knowledge. Um, let's see, what else do we got on him? Uh,
Several documentaries.
yeah, and that's kind of where I'm going here now. So like I think it was I'm just making sure it's the first one. So in 2017, he did Unacknowledged, which was a crowdfunded, here we go again, a crowdfunded documentary featuring Greer. And this one got really attacked by the media. And I really don't like that because they're dealing with the number one source. Like, so I read some of the reviews on what they were saying, the media, and it was way too harsh. Like it was almost making him out to be like a joke when instead they should have said, listen, I don't know what this guy's up to, but he ain't no joke. Like I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way because I know that this is what we do to people anyway, but here's a guy who's extremely smart, well spoken, knows what he's talking about, has had access to all kinds of things that openly, and he's talking about them, and we will get to that. But there's Unacknowledged, there's Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, Contact Has Begun, was released in April 2020. There's other ones he's done too. I would recommend to go check all of them out. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot. And let's see what I had on here.
The
Ah,
Acknowledged documentary I thought was wonderful. I think everybody should watch that if they have not seen it.
Unacknowledged, yeah.
Hmm.
I think you should. Is there a bad one? I think I've seen them all, and I don't think
No,
there's a bad
I
one.
just found it extremely interesting. My husband, who never watches stuff like that, I watched it a second time and had him watch it. And even he was riveted and very into all the
Yeah.
information that he received from that. So,
So yeah, absolutely. Let me see here. Oh, thank you, um, Mandy. I'm going to quit doing that because I feel like you don't want me to do that. Thank you, Mandy. She just gave us I don't even know what it is. I can't tell what that
a
is.
gold mic.
Oh. Well, I can't tell what it is, so I don't have my good glasses in. Um, so the two big again, guys, there are so many rabbit holes that you're going to think, why are you skipping all this? I'm not. We can go back to. I just think we're going to talk about Antarctica. That will bring him in. We're going to talk about this. This will bring him in. There are so many things that are going to bring him in. Even if we were trying to avoid talking about him, we're going to be talking about him.
Right.
And this event that I'm going to tell you about, I think that if you have not seen it, you must watch it. Above and beyond all of his documentaries too. It'll make you just want to go watch the documentaries anyway. But I think everybody needs to watch this. It is a little bit on the long side. However, it is one of the most truthful things I've ever seen done. And in June of 2023, so almost a year now, ago, there was a National Club event in Washington, D.C. again. There was the one in 2001. Again, the numbers of believers were way down at that time. But now here we are in 2023, and he did one. And I got to say, guys, it's 3 hours, but it's a must watch if you haven't seen it. He has whistleblowers from everywhere. And even places he's never gotten to, but he's known about. He's found a whistleblower from there and confirmed everything he thought. And he just lays it out. He lays out not even, I don't even want to say the possibility, the fact that we have energy, unlimited energy resources. Um, I think that's one of, I mean, there's so many takeaways from it, but one of the biggest things is we have unlimited energy sources. Actually, to his account, we have enough that we don't, that the people are not told about, that we would never have to pay for power again.
That was mind blowing when I heard all of that information about that, to know that we could have been running our entire civilization without fuel, without power companies, without any of that. But it was all about money.
Right. We argue over, coal and gas powered or solar or wind turbines, but really, and I mean, in this from last year, he said he was, I think what you're about to talk, what you're going to mention about what's coming up with the drop, I think that's because it was June 12th, 2023. I think he said 1 year. And that would be 1 year if you're talking about June 10th, basically. Um, but in there he's talking about this is real, and everything in there he's saying this is all real. I mean, of course a lot of people do this, but he doesn't always do it because he does his research, he does his science, he does every part of it. He doesn't just believe and he's blindly on
Mm-mm.
board or whatever. So he needs to know, and he dropped bombs at that press event. Like I don't know how everybody hasn't seen it. In fact, I
He,
went and looked on YouTube on his channel, and there was like, I can't remember what it was, 3 million views. But then there's like the WF files that I know Holly and I have watched a few of. They're fun and they're informative and they have good editing and stuff. But all of theirs get like 15 million views, but only 3 this, and this is the most real thing you'll ever see.
nothing comes out of his mouth unless he has seen documents and talked to a first-hand person. Not, I heard this from so and so, or I heard. I mean,
Yeah,
he
never
he
hearsay.
knows his stuff. If he says it, it's real.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, there's that. And then, and we'll backtrack a little bit here in a second, but the one thing I wanted to talk about that is huge is that there has been a project in the works for 33 years. Complete data. They've been using like 7 different cities to store the data in case anybody got hold of it from one, that, and they've been collectively making sure everything is updated at each location, not via the internet, where people could go, oh, that's another location, even through APIs and stuff could follow it. They have literally used old fashioned, go down there and say, we updated the base, here it is. And now it's out to the general public. It is called the Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, or DPIA. It has 33 years of data. All you need to do is put an email in there, which is kind of weird. He made you do that too, I think, because
Well, it's not, and I'll tell you why. I just watched the interview with him, and he explains why.
okay.
The
So
reason,
I didn't mind doing it anyway. I just
well,
did it through an AP, through a reroute. So, but anyway, in there is everything. And it's, by the way, you guys can just Google it. It's Disclosure Project Intelligence Archive, or DPIA, Stephen Greer, or you can go to Genie. So GENI.US. So GENI.US /DPI archive.
or it's just,
DPI
it's
archive.
dpiarchive.com is the website.
Right. Well, the one I just gave gives you a couple options at the bottom when you get there.
Oh, right. It
So
gives you
it's kind of
the
cool because when you
conference
get
and
there,
all
the
that.
one to the there's, and it's not a bunch, and it's not a lot of scrolling. It's just 5. But the one on the far left is the full database. So the first one your eyes would see left to right is the database we're talking about. But
Yeah.
in there too is how to download like CS5 to your phone, and maybe something to his documentaries. I mean, basically, really good. Like, and again, it's not reading pages. It's just like 4 little avatar links.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Can we
very
put that
simple.
in our description?
Yeah.
Can we add the
So
link?
Yeah, it's, I'm putting it in the live too right now.
I was just gonna say I could do that too.
So here, did I spell Did I spell archive right? No, I didn't.
No.
Disregard that one,
Would
guys.
you like me to do that for you?
Hold on. Oh wait, I didn't do it right anyway. I got to put the hyperlink in. And we haven't tried this. I don't know if it's even going to let me, but
Yeah,
let's try.
I'm on the DPI archive on my other phone right now, and they have a whole section on deep underground military bases, which I'm scrolling through right now. It's fascinating because they have all these photos of things. They have a photo in here of the tunnel boring machine. You know how we talked about how they just melt the mountain like butter to make the tunnels? They have a picture of that machine in here. Oh, so cool. Yes, even the documents that are still classified by the government because they're not really supposed to be, but about Marilyn Monroe and all of that stuff and how she was
Mm-hmm.
going to come out and say everything, and she was killed 2 days later. All of that is in there. I mean, everything is in there. They said this project cost probably $20 million. And again, there's nobody funding this. This is a crowdfunded thing as well. So they are asking, hey, if you can donate, please do. They're hoping, that some larger companies as well as individuals will donate in order to keep this free for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of things. There's you guys. You could if you put in Stephen Greer, Hillary Clinton, you're going to get 30 pages of results that are relative. And that's how weird it is. And I'm not just calling Hillary weird. I'm just saying that that's how weird it is. You can put in somebody random name and Stephen Greer, and you're not just going to get a bunch of crap. If it's anybody who had anything to do with UFO belief, and you put in Stephen Greer after their name, you're going to get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. He
It's
said
it's
if
that it's that easy to find his stuff, I guess is what I'm saying.
Congress tried to go through this entire thing to look over every document, that they could meet every day, Monday through Friday for a year, 8 hours a day, and not get through it all. That's how much information is in there.
I think he's given him way too much credit. I mean, first of all, assuming that they can all read even is pretty out there. And by that I mean you guys, I know they can read, but what I'm saying is I know that they have staffers and stuff read for. They don't read. I mean, I know this from talking with people in other spaces and stuff, and I mean, they do when they absolutely need to. Like if it's one of their top 5 biggest pushes, they might read stuff. But to be honest, I have learned that almost all of them read nothing. That they tell the staffers what their projects are that week, and the staffers are to report to them with a here's the summary.
Right. Well, he even suggested that the Congress does allocate someone, to go through and find the things that they're looking for because they don't have time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, anything out there is good. You guys make sure that again, we will be doing a lot of down these because we said we might do a double episode, but that's just not going to happen. I just wanted to get the basics out about him because even other things I'm looking ahead into the future wanting to do as topics, they do involve him. It's not a maybe. Like I said, you could probably find him in everything. Like out of the next or out of like 5 different topics that I'm really wanting to do, he's in 3 that I know of, and he's probably in the other 2. I mean, but he's in 3. Like there's no way getting around him and talking about those topics. So I just kind of wanted to
Well,
mention him, let everybody know who he was. So Holly, whatever you had that he's going to disclose, or um, did you want to talk about that, or
yes, I want to mention also that this disclosure project, this archive, contains 112 named military testimonies and
Mhm.
600 redacted testimony from military officers, people that don't want to come out. So they have their testimony in there, but they've redacted their name for now until they feel more comfortable. It says there's 151 black sites where operations have occurred. They've got 122 crash retrievals documented, many with named sources. All of this information is in that archive. Um,
to be honest though, like I mean, the only thing I can see that it would help, like to say that, hey, I don't want my name mentioned, is that's all well and good, but I feel like at this point, it's like I know it's tough, but like I would feel like, hey, just trust in Dr. Greer because at this point, more people than not believe in it by far and know that our government has been very shady about it. But if the government wanted to look into, hey, who was this guy that said that? To me, I'm just spitballing here, but I would think it would be extremely easy for them to figure out. I know who said that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it says that there's 122 named whistleblowers, not secondhand people, the direct people, Dr. Greer said. The research, blah, 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 sorry. He said there are many senior military sources waiting in the wings to come forward at the right time. The Senate Intelligence Committee has provided amnesty for high-value whistleblowers to not be prosecuted for 6 months. This was initially what they were saying. But then when the bill went back, they took out basically all the good stuff in it, and people were pissed. The high-level people were mad. So anyway, they have now they are only saying a 3-letter agency, so CIA, FBI, whichever one it is, we don't know. That people in the covert program.
I'm gonna do a little giveaway here though. Again, I don't know the answer either for sure, but I know I've watched hours upon hours of Dr. Greer's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the CIA. I'm sorry to say, it's just he has a way of always speaking about them. It's them, and they do have the most power over all agencies.
From June 20th onwards, apparently a 3-letter agency will be involved to provide 24/7 protection for UFO whistleblowers. So the high-level people, supposedly, this is going to be
then again, I would have to say it has to be the CIA because the CIA has more. Like I didn't know this for a while because I always knew they had the most control, but when the NSA came around, I was a little thrown. But the CIA controls the NSA. The CIA controls everything. Like the CIA over they have the call over any other government agency.
He said one chairman of Fortune 50 corporation has documents on propulsion system drawings and energy systems. He had a man come up to him and tell them that they would kill his whole family. He said Congress is slow to realize that this is actually true. It's like trying to get information off the mafia who would kill your whole family. It's not a conspiracy. These are things that are actually happening. And that's why these people that are high level have been afraid to come forward because, even the Gresh guy back in July, alluded to that. He said he wouldn't talk about it in there, that he would talk about it in a skiff. But so apparently this great protection that they're supposed to offer after June 20th is supposed to eliminate that. We'll see.
Right. I mean, and he's saying what he said June 20th.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, it's unlike him to do an actual date.
Well, no,
it
it's
really
because
is.
it's like some type of a law or whatever you want to call it that,
I know. I'm just saying it's very unlike Stephen Greer to put that out there. So now I got to say, because I do fully believe in the guy. If it didn't happen, I wouldn't not believe in him at all. That wouldn't even affect me. But I got to say, he's so careful and meticulous about his research and everything. I cannot see him putting a date out unless he is not only that sure about, like you said, like it's a law or whatever, but that he's that sure that it will be pushed through too. And in the last year's meeting that we were talking about that you guys should go watch, he talks about the timeline often. There is a timeline. There are parts in motion and that's I think why it got so much more attention than previous times was because he's like, we are reaching dates that there's no more pushing down the road. Basically, right. The way I took that, and I listened to that 3-hour thing twice. So I mean, I went back for seconds because I wanted to really take it in. And to be honest, like he's talking about like, hey, there are agendas, and again, these are not like, I don't know for sure, but he makes it very clear that they're not like hostile agendas. However, there are some high level officials who will more than burn for this if they don't start doing the right thing.
Well, he says that what is coming out he calls catastrophic disclosure. And he said that the reason that he got this archive out, which took them 3 years to do, he said, why rush to get the archive out? To prepare people for something much bigger, which is coming.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little scary now, isn't it?
Well, if you remember in that conversation last year, or that thing where I mean, again, a lot of the whistleblowers and stuff were at that event with Dr. Greer. And I mean, there were first time whistleblowers who had been there, who had been involved for many years. There was a guy who had lost a limb, and there was a lot of people in there. But um, I mean, he himself said that one thing that one of the big concerns, and I don't remember exactly how he worded this, you might, but he was talking about one of his biggest concerns is that now that they have admitted about UAPs and stuff, that there are a couple different ways they could turn this on people. And one of them, I mean, there's a few, and again, we will talk about that whole piece another episode because that is really worth dissecting. But he talks about that one of the ways they might do this is, on a certain date, launch some of the man-made things and whatnot, and make it appear like they're attacking,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore get everybody on board with aliens are evil.
Right. Apparently, if you go to his YouTube channel, the very first video on there, the most recent one, which was 11 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
talks about this whole archive. And it also mentions the June 20th protections that are coming out. And he did make one statement. I want to go back and hear what he said the name of it was, because there was something about what you're talking about with the man-made propulsion, the man-made UFOs. And there was something that some people were injured with this. And I don't remember hearing anything about that. So I do want to go back to that episode and catch the name of that so I can Google that and see what it was.
Hmm.
But I would suggest everybody go watch that little YouTube thing too. It's short. It's like a half hour or something, but it, had all about the archive and how they got here and, how much it costs to do it and why this and that. And so it's good information.
Well, again, when he says it too, he said, but I was glad that he had a response to his own comment, because he said that hey, they're if they do, if he said if they try to like do this, they're just going to be trying to pull the wool over the public's eyes. He said, but then right away he moved into, but if they do that, the problem and that's when he got into, there are already pieces in motion that will totally destroy anybody, any government leader, or anybody who says that. So the way I took it was like, hey, if before these aliens come, if we need to fake it, like governments, if we need to fake it to because they still believe the people are not ready to hear it. And you guys, I think everybody should know that who's listening, because they just said, oh yeah, there's UAPs. So they're just figuring out what is the littlest amount we can tell you people, which tells us that all the years you did horrible things to people who even thought this means you knew the whole time. So I mean, I don't believe government officials much at all anyway. But once they did that, I felt like, okay, well then let's start disclosing, because this is enough. Like, now you're admitting it and you're still not disclosing the reality. And he was saying
Well,
if they try this, if they try that or that, there were like three things. He said every one of those things will be destroyed, like demolished, like the theory, by the reality, is how I took it. Like if they put up a fake spaceship and make it look he made it sound like if they make it look like it's going to attack something, that a real one will come down and just zap it out of the sky and go, okay, yeah.
well, where the human-made ones were possible too. There's also the human trafficking that was involved with that, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. He also mentions that in his little YouTube thing that I watched today. But I mean, I just don't understand really why they want to be so secretive about it instead of just being upfront. I mean, yes, there are the illegal, horrible things that happened in conjunction with this, like the human trafficking that they did. But overall, as far as, do aliens exist? Are we doing this to protect ourselves? Why are we doing it? I don't understand why. What's the big secret?
Because a lot of them walk here on Earth with us. And a lot of them are, I mean, look, I don't know if you've seen a lot of this lately, and it doesn't always even tie to alien stuff, but there's a lot of actors and stuff being, I don't want to use the damn term because I hate it, but canceled. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
For
there
what?
are people like literally going, okay, enough of her, enough of her. It's not just Oprah anymore. It's
But why?
everybody.
But why? Why are they doing? Why are they being
Because I
canceled?
think they either like, I mean, again, like Mel Gibson's movie about, you were talking about, child slavery and sending them into sex slavery and stuff like that. Mel Gibson's movie was so hard
No,
hitting, and
I'm not
it
talking about sex slavery. I'm human trafficking. I'm not talking about
human
sex trafficking.
okay, human trafficking. They're
Yeah.
talking about, they're doing the same because that movie was also about that, but it involved all big ups. It involved Oprah huge. She's a huge part of it. So I mean, The Rock is a part of it.
And what movie are you talking about?
I'm talking about the, what is it? The Price of Freedom by Mel Gibson. It's very hard to watch,
Oh,
you
I haven't
guys.
seen it.
If I were you, anybody out there, if you haven't seen it, it is extremely graphic. It came out last year. Be very cautious going in to watch this. It is not for the lighthearted. Period.
And it's called The Price of Freedom.
Um, oh, just are you in Google?
I am now.
Okay, type in
I found it. Yep, that's
Mel
it. Price of
Gibson
Freedom.
Freedom. What is it called?
Wait, this is a look at the gun violence epidemic in America. No,
No, no, no, no. It's a
that's
movie from last year.
yeah, that was a documentary from there. But here, let me put Mel Gibson in. I didn't put that in. Maybe that'll pull up some
It
different.
will.
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. There you go.
There we go. Okay.
Here, and so for our listeners, if they're listening, they don't know about it, why don't you read the description?
I have to find one first. Okay, here we go. Based on an incredible true story, the film shines a light on even the darkest of places after rescuing a young boy from ruthless child traffickers. I gotta wait for this now to load. Sorry, where's the thing? Ugh. Okay, here we go. I found it. Sorry. After rescuing a young boy from ruthless child traffickers, a federal agent learns the boy's sister is still captive and decides to embark on a dangerous mission to save her. With time running out, he quits his job and journeys deep into the Colombian jungle, putting his life on the line to free her from a fate worse than death.
Oh, is that all it has? Okay, so yeah, you guys, that right there would make you think I'm fine to watch that. I will warn you, you have been warned. It is extremely hard to watch.
It's on Apple, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it actually went out in the theaters, and I can't even remember. It was here in Colorado, but like 14 states banned it, wouldn't let it play in any theater.
Wow, really?
Oh, yeah, this was as
Well,
controversial as he's ever been.
and it is hard for me, and I'm sure a lot of people, to watch things that involve children. If children or
Right,
animals,
but in there are some real videos of stars.
doing what?
Well, you'll have to watch the movie and be disgusted, as I was.
God, I don't even know if I want to watch it now that you've put that out.
I mean, basically, I don't know if everybody's familiar, but Mel Gibson is kind of in a good way. I think look, I like him as an actor too. I think he's done some amazing work. I think some of his director stuff is way over the top. Like for me, I did watch The Passion of the Christ. It was very hard to watch. Everything of his is kind of hard to watch, but this is the hardest thing he's made to watch.
I did watch Passion of the Christ in the theater.
Right. So this is the hardest thing. He always takes it so far, but this one isn't like he tried to top himself by taking it farther. He just did the job he does, and it came out to be, it is an amazing film. It's just very hard to watch.
Let's see.
But it talks about it talks about the Hollywood elites, how basically most of them are involved. Not some, not a few, most.
I don't know about that. That's crazy.
But so my point is that we know they walk among us. We know that they can Some can shape shift. We have the blondes as a alien race who absolutely have walked among us for a long time. Like they might be your best friend. I don't know. You might have a best friend that's an alien.
Oh
but
my.
but my point is that they're right here on Earth, and maybe not the best ones. Maybe some of the bad agenda ones are here and doing bad things, just like people do.
Right.
So
Well,
I'm putting together a lot of pieces of things right now, like the movie, because that came out and I was like, damn, like I was shocked because I was like, I mean, unless it's his label making a movie, he'd absolutely just like, he just said, I don't care. I have enough money. Screw my career. Cause he said, I don't care about any of you people. If you did anything like this, I'm throwing you to the wolves.
the guy that played Jesus in Passion of the Christ is
Mm-hmm.
also the person that plays the lead in this movie.
Hmm.
Jim Cavell.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't shock me that
Ever you
Mel
say his name?
Gibson would work with the same guy. I mean, that's probably not an easy role to find. Hey, man, you want to wreck your career forever?
This I found an article from the Today Show, the NBC
Hmm.
Today Show, and it says here about how much that they made millions and millions of dollars at the box office. It was a huge box office hit apparently, but it says, but as Sound of Freedom soars in the box office, controversy around the movie is on the rise too, with critics alleging it paints an inaccurate picture of human trafficking and that the film has ties to the conspiracy group QAnon.
Yeah, of course they did that though. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, right here I'm looking. Look at. I mean, let's go back to, um, Stephen Greer for a minute. So, where is the one? So, John DeFore, who's a big reporter for the Hollywood Reporter. It's been around forever.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he wrote about which film wasn't. Let me see. Um, well, it's one of Greer's. Oh, it might be Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, maybe. But this is what he wrote. He wrote that the film, quote unquote, is far too impassioned in its nuttiness to be purely cynical. Scientology style sham. Rather strangely squeezes the last few years of UFO related news coverage into a misleading frame, arguing that journalists, pundits, and government are collaborating to build fear in the public that would justify the establishment of a one world government that could wage an interplanetary war, and notes that though Greer's been summoning UFOs from across the galaxy for decades, he can never convince an alien ship to travel an extra couple of miles and hover for a good photograph.
Well, that is kind of funny.
Is it though? I mean, to
I mean,
me, it's so dissing on
well,
him
not
that,
not the whole thing, but the last line, like, okay, yeah, you have had all this contact. Could you make him like hover for a photograph? That is kind of funny, but the rest of it, yeah, is kind of bullshit. But
I mean, again, the reason I'm saying that most people, many people might not be familiar with the Hollywood Reporter. What I can tell you, I am familiar with it, and it's usually very honest. They don't care. They don't take left right agendas. They just write it as they see it. So you would think they would write this up as Stephen Greer did a great job in this movie. If you believe in this type of thing, but instead they just attack him. It's not their style to do this. And so it's just, I mean, to me, it almost feels like you guys are usually pretty good about this stuff. You're in the industry, you're in the city of the industry, and you're saying that, I felt like they were paid off.
well, when normally if you attack something like that, it's because you feel passionate about it for some reason. So, what is the reason this guy feels passionate about that? What is it that you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
is
Well,
he
let me
because
see
he
what
knows it
the,
ties to the Hollywood
so
people and
here's,
he's going to
here's
protect them?
Noel. Does anybody know who Noel Murray is? Noel Murray has been with the Los Angeles Times for almost 2 decades. And his quote to the film was, overlong and rambling, more concerned with disconnected anecdotes than making a compelling case or telling an interesting story. Come on. That's what you have to say about them about his movie, the Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Like, to me, that's like that's all you took away. That's his quote. That's his only quote on the movie. That's all you took away.
I only watched part of that movie. I didn't watch the whole thing.
Okay, well, I mean, I did, and it's. I mean, he's talking about how he takes groups out and how that collective energy can. He's just telling you like what he's doing.
Right.
He's not telling you this is a fact. You better believe it. And no, it's so the opposite. It's let me show you what I'm doing here.
Right. Well, his conference that he has in July, for those that don't know, he's going to have 500 people out there that are going to do one of the CE5 sessions. And as of 2 weeks ago, when he made that last YouTube video, he said there were still 100 spots left. Now, that may not be true as of today, but and apparently, I think too, if you download that app that he has, the CE5 app, aren't you able to watch that stuff live or be a part of it somehow?
I think so. I
Without
mean,
being
here's another one. Where did this one go? Oh, from Variety magazine. There is a quote from their film critic Owen Gleiberman, I guess. And here's his quote: "Fantasy propaganda, a conspiracy documentary built around the thesis that the national security state has concealed it all from us." And then he says, "Greer is like a 1970s computer nerd played by John Waters with a touch of Guy Pearce." Now, again, whether or not that's a funny statement, like whatever, this is all he's writing. So to me, it's not funny because this is all you wrote.
no,
This
that's
is
not funny at all.
horrible. You know,
I don't understand how anybody can even say that it's like a thesis anymore because hello, here's all of the documents. Here's 35 years of documents to show you that what he says is true. It's not a thesis.
yeah. But it's weird how everybody jumps down his throat. I mean, like, and I mean, we're talking like those the LA Times is a little different, but Hollywood Reporter and Variety, yeah, that is sometimes where honestly you do get a true story because they don't usually have a pull. They'll tell you just how it is about like this person's should be shamed, this person's good, bad, good. I
We
mean,
should give some blowback to those reviewers and we should all write to them and say, obviously, you didn't do your research. You need to check out this website on the archives because here's all the government documents.
well, I mean, I would guess that, you know, I hope that this kind of stuff gets included into those documents. Like, by the way, here were the people that lied to you in 1997. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, from the way that I was seeing the documents, I don't see why they wouldn't do it. Call them out. You
Well, the
know,
people that they say lied to them, they'll just say, we didn't know. We weren't lying to you. That's what we really thought.
right. And you also didn't know that there were UFOs because we didn't call them UAPs, but you did. See, the problem here is that we're no longer in that state of like Greer was talking about. Like he's like in 1970, you know, that was another thing. He goes, I know for certain we had less than 10% of the public, or 1974 or something, less than 10% of the public believed in UFOs or aliens. Now, well over 60 is what he says.
Oh, I can totally see that.
I mean, it's 50 years difference, but again, that's a long history, even leading up to 1974.
But then again, there was no internet. There was no
I
social
know, but I'm
media.
just saying that now everybody's kind of going to start getting caught in the net.
Mm-hmm.
If you lied along the way, if you took payoffs to write bad articles, if you did this, that, and the other, first of all, you should feel ashamed and like a scumbag because you are. If you're, look at, we've all reached the point of nobody believes reporters anymore, even. There was a time when reporters were really well looked upon. They brought us news that we needed to know that we wouldn't have learned.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, screw you, scumbag. And now their scumbaggery is going to come back and bite them in the ass here.
Well, I
Because
agree. I
because
mean, if
not
that's
only will
documented, I mean,
here's how I feel. Not only will people look into, hey man, hey, Hollywood Reporter, you said blah, 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 and that this guy's a joke. And now he's got this proof. Now what? And again, they'll have to pull out the reporters because they keep files on this stuff, on where they got their sources and all that. I mean, people are going to start demanding for that stuff. Where were your sources? What are they? Because now it's all disclosed. There's no reason for you to hold on to it anymore.
But
Because
something like a
here are the
review,
real sources saying every single thing you said was a lie.
right? But something
So
like a
where are your
movie,
sources saying Dr. Greer's all 100% lies?
but he didn't say that.
But I mean, throughout these reviews, they kind of do. They make them into a joke.
Right. But a review is an opinion, kind of. You
Kind
know
of.
what I mean?
Some of these are. I mean, the LA Time one has 5 footnotes.
I'm just saying, I think that's how they get away with it.
Yeah. I'm just saying too, but they're gonna look into this stuff now, and they're gonna say, guess what, guys? You might want to like get into your archives and make some corrections here and apologize to the people.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's why I think that, people like him, they don't do the research. They watch this one movie. They take their own preformed opinions that they have of UAPs or aliens or whatever, and they put that in there without looking. Oh, wait, you mean we have 35 years of documents here that prove what he said? Oh, wait, I didn't know that. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, I feel like it's even
so
worse than that. I feel like now it's at its worst. I feel like now maybe a reporter does want to go the full mile, everything. And it's like they work for the Turner Network, or they work for TBS or whatever. One of the big ones that tells them you cannot talk about this presidency, this politics, you can't talk about this. I mean, it's almost like you have your editor, like always, and then there's somebody above the editor who owns the media that it's being printed in, and that person actually gets to direct what's being said.
I have a good friend of mine that I've known since high school who worked for CNN. He was actually a reporter online. I won't tell you what department that he was in, but I should contact him and ask him what he know. And actually, the department he was in has nothing to do with any of that kind of stuff. But he was good friends with those people, so I do wonder if he knows anything about that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I don't. It also might depend on where he lives, because only a few states, but a few states, and I love this, but I'm waiting for it to mean something. A few states just at the end of last year dropped NDAs, meaning if you've signed one, it went invalid even.
Well, CNN was in Atlanta, so they were all in
Right, and
Atlanta.
I'm
They
not
were
sure where
asking
Georgia
him.
stands with that, but like I do know for a fact that every reporter with CNN is under NDA, and I don't know if it's for life or what, but if Georgia is one of the states that killed that, then they don't even have to wait out the NDA, because they all got voided in one fell swoop.
I'll find out. I'm going to contact him and ask him about this. That's interesting. I never thought. I don't know why I didn't think about asking him before this.
I mean, it's almost like, hey, we'll pay you $1,000 a week to write one article a week. Really? That's really good pay. But here's the thing: you can never discuss anything ever the rest of your life. And at the time, NDAs were held very much to the T. Like you could be sued for everything you have over them. Last year, at the end of the year, over 20 states invalidated NDAs, no matter when they were written.
Really?
Um, yeah, and also
Why did that happen?
non competes as well. All kinds of things. They were just like enough.
Why? What brought that to the forefront? Was there a certain case that brought that up that made all
I
that
think I
happen?
think it's because too many people started making people use NDAs.
They do. So that's why I'm curious.
Well, that's my point. I think it used to be like, like, hey, we made this NDA rule. It's like everything, technology goes too far, blah, blah, blah. But it's like everything. So it's like, like, hey, we made this NDA thing and it's going to help people. Okay. And for a while, I believe it did. It was used properly in business and to protect a potential patent or whatever it might be. Who knows? But then it's like everybody started seeing, wait a minute, if we just make everybody do an NDA, they can never talk about what we're talking about. So like all of a sudden the NDA office had to hire 100 times its staff. And they're like,
Well,
why?
even the Hollywood people, everyone that works for them has to sign one.
Everybody that
Yeah,
goes
the
anywhere
makeup
has to
artist.
sign one, I feel like.
I mean, every
NDAs are very common these days. So, cheers to the
well,
states who said enough. Don't care.
here here is a article from Holland at Night, which I'm not familiar with, but it was dated April 29th, 2024. Don't fret yet. Trade secrets, NDAs, and non-solicits after the FTC non-compete rule. And it says, following the non-compete ban issued by the FTC, companies and employers are expected to even more vigilantly protect against departing workers or employee groups taking their trade secrets and proprietary information. Simply put, in addition to trade secret statutory relief, NDAs and non-solicitation agreements are alive and well under the new FTC rule, even if the rule ultimately takes effect in its current form, provided that they don't financially operate as a non-compete to sideline a worker from taking another job.
Thank you, Mandy, for the beans. I'm sorry.
In this evolving non-compete landscape, it is advisable to wait for a short while to see how litigation over the FTC's rule plays out and not immediately revise restrictive um, convents or tell employees that they're restrictive are unenforceable. So I'll have to read a little bit more on that. That's
Yeah, but I mean the bottom line there is everybody's getting caught in the crosshairs now. It's like it's like everything all ties together. You know what I mean? Like it all. I don't know. Many years ago, things started with 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, right? Now it's like 3 degrees of everything. it's, it's like so like these NDAs and these. I think they're like enough guys already. Like, you know what? What if this person has to speak about it? What if they're called as a material witness? What if they I mean, it's like I think the judges were finding themselves in bad positions where they're like, okay, this is a rape case, and because of your NDA, this person gets off.
right. Which,
I mean, like, again, and let's do this one soon. To be honest, I'm all about this. Let's do the Boeing guy that got killed, the
right.
whistleblower.
Yes, I know which case you're talking
So I mean, there's another company that is major NDA, and literally there's a hitman for them that's out there.
about. And I understand the NDA as far as they invented this certain system for the jet engine.
Proprietary technology,
Right.
sure, I get that.
Sure. So I think that needs to be, separated in the courts. That, okay, yeah, if it's that kind of a thing, then
Well, I
yeah.
mean,
But
and
if you're
again,
talking about
don't
how your boss, was screwing the secretary, yeah, that's a different
yeah.
thing.
I mean, and that's the thing. And don't make it so. I said all these states got involved with it. Don't make it so like it's. I don't know that it's so black and white. There might be judges who are like, okay, is it proprietary? Maybe there's a little checklist. But I think it's very short now. It's like, okay, does this have effect on global could this poorly influence people in the wrong way and it's misinformation? Is it proprietary? There might just be a few questions, and if it's outside of that, screw it, because like who was it? What's his name? Not Epstein, but the other dirtbag, Weinstein, right? Harvey
Mm-hmm.
Weinstein.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so he made every single person that sued him, every woman that he, I don't know if yeah, it was rape,
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I mean, some chose to or whatnot, but it was like, hey, you can't have this job without whatever. It was negotiating. So I've even heard some people claim, well, that's the woman's fault because she didn't have to. With him, he's such a dirtbag that, trust me, on all different kinds of levels. But he made all of them sign NDAs. Every one of them was allowed to break it.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean,
But that's my point. These states are getting sick of this stuff. Like these
maybe
NDA. See, that's where I'm saying everybody files an NDA now.
maybe it is if the actions are illegal that they're allowed to break it.
Yeah.
Well, and really, a lot of this stuff doesn't stand up in court. I know my ex-husband, he had a no compete contract, and he went to court, and they said, you can't do that. You can't tell somebody they can't work in their field.
Yeah. And so when I first started working for the laser company, the 2 years I was in Florida as a salary position, working a ton of hours, and they were training me and everything. This
Hmm.
is the second largest laser company in the world. There's about five that are huge. Okay. And this is the second largest. And then there's a bunch of like small operation ones. But even though I knew this guy forever and still do, he made me sign uh, an NDA because everything is proprietary.
Right. I can
So
understand
like I
that.
wouldn't, like I can see where I can even see now where I could have hurt this guy. I never would. But when my training was done, where I could have gone to another laser company and like, and as you should be able to in a free market, I could have negotiated my pay higher by saying, "Hey, like I know about all this, and oh, you used to work with Tom, yeah."
Right.
And all of a sudden they're like, "We don't even care about you. You're hired though. We need to pick your brain."
Hmm.
I mean,
So
look at
did you have
at the
in
same,
your
at the same time, look at what happened just about a year before. Like I need to move us over to a space we never talk about, ride share. Okay, so Uber and Alphabet Waymo, right? They had Anthony Lewandowski working for Google, and he had an NDA for 20 years, and he was hired at Uber. He took all of his files from Waymo, brought them over to Uber, broke his NDA, and gave him all of the technology specs for their Waymo cars. He did 6 months in white collar prison, like with golf and
really?
tennis, and then he was out.
Wow. I can't believe you did 6 months though.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's like,
The country club
it's
prison.
country club prison. Yeah. I mean, and to me, that's just disgusting. I mean, this again, I'm not trying to be supportive of the Google empire, but at the same time, like they had proprietary stuff. He knew it. He was in charge of it. And the only reason he was approached, it wasn't even to bring him on. They knew he was going to get caught. They were hiring him to bring a folder over once and get multi millions of dollars and then never use him at all.
Mm.
So it's just too touchy, but I am extremely on the edge of my seat to see what on the 20th is being revealed. Um because I know that, everything he was talking about last year, everything had a timeline, but he wouldn't talk about it last year, Stephen Greer.
Well, I
Or
don't
he
know what
wouldn't
he's
he
going to
wouldn't say the
reveal.
actual timeline is what I mean. He wouldn't say like, "Hey, July this of this year." He was just like, "Just know there are timelines in place on both sides, and on the bad people's side, these timelines don't work with the people who want to help us side." He goes, "So that's why it's not an evil thing. It'll come across as good, but he was pointing it out as a good thing, like, hey, the good people they're going to win this one. This one they're going to get to have a win on." And he was basically talking about, if you were part of this, it's time to save your ass. Like, get your voice heard, get into this because you're going to get exposed.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't know how we spun into NDAs. That's what we do here on the rabbit hole. But I don't know how we spun into all that, but it all makes sense. All this ties together. Like, hey, you can't ever talk about this. Why? We're making movies.
That's how we spun into all this because I said, why didn't they just tell us to begin with? Then we got into the movies and the movie reviews.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, I mean, just basically here's how I see it. Here's the summary. So much lying, and yet it's on the side that the majority of people for decades thought it wasn't on. Like, one side was saying, "Dude, no, we're not the liars," and 90% of the population believed him. Now those same people are going, "We're not the liars," and barely 30% believe them, according to Greer's 60% plus.
Right.
So what he's saying is, listen, the times have shifted. The voice is, we know you people are scumbags. We want this revealed finally. It was different when they had the people protecting them by 90%. Like, no, dude, of course they're telling us the truth. They're reporters. That doesn't fly anymore.
Well, I think the more and more information that comes out, it's changing the people's belief systems.
Yeah, of course.
And he said it's claimed that the officers on the verge of whistleblowing are doing so at the highest level and that they have information that can, quote, change and shock the world overnight.
Yeah.
Lives are on the line, according to Dr. Greer. Criminal files will be opened on anyone who pulls a dirty trick. It's time to be on the right side of history. Special forces and law enforcement know how serious this is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I really don't even know what to say. I feel like bombs are going to be dropped this year on all this stuff.
Yeah.
I hope it's as easy. I hope it's easier for people to digest than it has been in the past.
He said there's a cell highly operational within the UAP program who are organizing to come forward. I met with them 10 days ago, he says right here.
See, and then stuff like that worries me though, because that worries me that when he says that, I have a worry that the bad people know exactly who that cell is. So are they very well protected? Because I
Which is
don't know how
why
well
this,
protected you can be.
well, and that's why this June 20th, there's supposedly that's when this goes into effect that they're going to be covered. But why aren't they covered as of today? I don't know
That's
why.
that's my point. Like, what happens if they get sniped leaving out of their house today?
Right.
I mean, don't put it above the government or whoever's behind things. If there's money behind something, human lives do not matter. That's really sad, but it is what it is. So,
Well, and another rabbit hole to go down that is tied to this too is the Vatican just coming out with on May 17th. They did a live stream press conference with Cardinal Victor Fernandez,
mhm.
giving guidance on how to discern supernatural phenomenon.
And I don't know if you've, yeah, I don't
When
know.
did
I
the
was
Vatican
watching,
ever come out and say anything about that
and
publicly?
that's a Nostradamus thing. That this year that would, I don't know if you've seen, like, the Nostradamus
No, I
predictions were
avoided.
very accurate back in the day, and then they weren't for a couple decades,
Right.
but they have been extremely right lately. Like this year alone, it's been off the hook. And one of the ones was that, um, and this again, how in the 1500s do you go this far ahead? But he said that the, is it King Harry over in England, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, the royal family.
King who? I'm sorry, what?
What's his name? Charles. Sorry.
Oh, Charles. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
He said that Charles would be superseded by a non, but by someone not expected, which means the red-haired twerp. You know what I'm talking about?
Don't pick on William and Harry.
Harry. There you go. Wait, is it Harry?
It's one of them. No, it's William.
Okay.
William is the one that's still there, and Harry's the one
Okay,
that
so
left
okay,
his
so
wife.
it won't be William, it'll be Harry, and it shouldn't be. And it's
But
not going to make sense, and that's what Nostradamus was saying. There's more to it too, but
but Harry and
um
Meghan left and moved to
I know.
California. And
I
the
know, but Charles now has cancer and his health is deteriorating quickly. And they said he will step down. Or Nostradamus said he will have health issues and step down in this year.
hmm,
I mean, what the hell, dude? How would you know that in the 1500s?
well,
Unless somebody visited you, or unless somehow you time traveled, or you know what I mean? Like you just wouldn't.
the Bible sure predicted a lot of stuff that was way ahead of its time too.
Yeah.
When they first talked about Christ being crucified, that was actually written about 500 years before crucifixion was even a thing. It didn't even exist. So it's like us talking about a microwave in the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like that didn't even exist then when that was written
Yeah.
about. So why
Yeah, I
would
mean,
they?
the only thing I can come up with, I mean, they're writing with like, those old ink pens that you had to fill, and he's on parchment paper. The only thing I can come up with is that either time travel or alien telepathy did happen with him.
Well, or maybe he did have, some kind of gift from God or somebody that's he was able to be a prophet like that, and they just didn't call it a prophet. They didn't call it the same thing. But yeah, I don't know.
So you guys, that is Stephen Greer. And that is the end of this week. So we will be back here next week with Holly. What are we talking about next week?
I thought we were talking about Stephen Greer next week.
Oh, we can.
You told me it was going to be a 2 week thing, so I didn't really plan anything
Okay.
else.
Well, I mean, we can, and we'll have to pick one of them though,
Yeah.
because we can't just go like, we need to pick one and focus on it.
Okay, we will do that.
You know, we could either do the first documentary that you just rewatched with your husband, or we could do the last year's meeting. Like, we need to pick one and move with that. Unacknowledged, or talk about what, and even I'll pull some even clips from last year's meeting if we want to let you guys hear some things.
Okay, I don't know that I watched last year's meeting. I don't think I did.
Yeah, you did. It was the 3-hour one, and when I remember asking you, and I was like, "Did you see this?"
I don't think I did.
Really?
No, I'll go back.
It's on. It's. You said you were on Stephen Greer's YouTube site,
right,
or YouTube page. It's on there. It says press conference or something. It's 3 hours long. It shows it on the thumbnail that it's going to be from 2 to 4, but it's 3 hours long.
Is it on one video? The 3 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. This is a year ago. I'm scrolling back through his videos.
It's July or June of last year. But it's in like his top play. It should be right at the top there. But regardless, while she's looking at this, you guys, thank you for joining us. Always love being here with you guys, and make sure to join us back here next week on the Rabbit Hole Vibrations podcast. Thank you for joining.